Good afternoon, everybody. This is Michael Gordon. I'm actually the originator of ClinicTracker and will be the moderator for today's webinar. As you know, we've been putting these webinars together and listing them out in the page that we'll show you at the end, so that you have an opportunity to hear about some of the most frequently used and important features of ClinicTracker, and also something you might not know about that might be helpful for you to hear about. And we also want to just give you a regular opportunity to have contact with our staff, to ask questions that you have, so that you can make the most of ClinicTracker, because as you all know, there's a lot there, and so much there that it's not a bad thing to be able to hear about some of the things that might be new to you. So anyhow, we're going to move ahead. Today is about compliance, some of the basics of compliance. As you know, one of the most powerful features of ClinicTracker is that it oversees the compliance process, which is a headache for all of us who have run services and need to worry about site visits, etc. So we'll be talking about, Alicia will be talking about configuring the rules for when paperwork needs to be done, to learn to see what alerts are out there in terms of overdue or upcoming or overdue paperwork, how to find out what's due for a particular a client, patient, and then also administratively how to get reports out of the system so you can see what's been done, what hasn't been done, what progress notes have been signed, etc. So with that, I will pass you off to Alicia. During the course of this, you can press the hand and write out any questions you have while Alicia is talking. At the end of each section, she'll stop and open it so you can ask questions verbally. And don't forget, at the end, there will be a a follow-up discussion period where you can ask about anything Alicia discussed during the course of this, or just anything on your mind about ClinicTracker and its features. So with that, Alicia, why don't you take it away?
Thank you, Michael. So the first thing that we're going to talk about today is actually setting up your compliance rules. And the way that you go about doing that is through the options form. So I'm going to pull ClinicTracker over here so you can see. You can access the options form by going to Help, About, Admin Config, and then Options. Here on the options form, there's two tabs that talk about the compliance settings. The first one being the compliance MH and the second being compliance CD/both. On the compliance mental health tab, you're going to see various items here that pertain to the mental health patients, okay, or patients that have been deemed to be in the mental health category for compliance on the demographics form. These rules are pretty simple to set up. You would check an item to include it in the calculation, meaning that it will in fact be required for each patient in this category. And then you can set the trigger, which is going to dictate the due date of the item. So for example, in the case of the admission note due date, we are saying that this item is included because there's a check mark here. And then you have your trigger field here. And you can just say that this item is triggered on the date of first visit, which would be the first item in the patient contact record, so the very first patient contact that the patient were to show up for. And then the second option is date of admission, which is the date of admission as entered on the intake tab of the demographic form. Okay. Moving right on, there are some other options here, and most of them function quite similarly. So in the case of the admission summary note due date, it's very similar to the first item. However, you're specifying a number of days after your selected trigger. So in this case, we have include in calculation is checked. The trigger is the admission date. And we're saying that this item is going to be due 30 days after the admission date. Okay. When you change this option to the admission note due date, you're basically saying that this admission summary is now due 30 days after the admission note was due based on this setting here at the top. Okay. Moving right on, there are some other compliance items here, and they all function very similarly. in the way that you set them up. One item worth noting is this initial treatment plan review due date. This is based again on the item that precedes it. So here when you specify the comprehensive treatment plan due date, you can then say the initial treatment plan review due date is based on the comprehensive treatment plan completion date versus the date of admission. Okay. Also over here in the right column, you'll see that there's a flex field. So you can enter in any item that isn't listed here. So for example, if you have a nurse's assessment that's due every year, you could enter that item in here and say that it's incremented 365 days. So that will put a due date on your compliance module for the nursing assessment every year. Okay. On the compliance CD both, there's some additional settings for the mental health category over here on the right-hand side. Again, those are pretty self-explanatory. You're also going to notice that there's an option here for autofill compliance completion dates. We always recommend that people use this setting because what happens is once a treatment plan, for example, is completed, locked and signed by all of the required parties, then the system is going to ask you, do you want to mark this item as having been complete on the patient's compliance record? And provided you check yes, the item will be marked as complete for you. So you're not having overdue items showing on your compliance alert when in fact they've actually been done. Here on the left side of this tab, you will see the compliance rules that apply to the chemical dependency category, and you can set those rules up here, very similar to what you saw in the mental health tab. If you ever have questions on any of these settings or want more information, you can come here to where it says Help in the upper left-hand corner of the options form. And when I click Help and then select Online Help, help.clinictracker.com automatically opens up to the options form page where I can then click on the compliance tabs and I can see a short video with more information about the settings on these tabs. Okay. Are there any questions about setting up your compliance rules before we move on? Okay.
Any questions at all for Alicia on that part of it?
Okay, so oh, sorry.
I guess not. Let's move on.
Okay. Okay, so the next item that we're going to talk about is compliance alerts. A compliance alert allows a clinician to see all of their compliance items as they're coming due. The rules for the compliance alert are actually configured per each clinician. So a clinician can specify that they want to see their items that are coming due within X amount of days. The way that a clinician would set that up is by coming here to where it says Settings in the upper right-hand corner of the ClinicTracker main screen. So I'm just going to click here. And when I click on Settings, the staff info form opens up for me. And on the Personal tab, I can set my compliance alert days right here. So in this case for Janie Allen, she has her compliance alert days to scan 2 days ahead. Some people prefer a wider range and some people of course prefer a shorter range, and that's why we allow the clinicians to set that up individually. Once you're done making your changes, you would press the Save button in the upper left-hand corner of the staff info form right here, and then you can close out. Okay. The way a clinician would view their compliance alerts is here on the message board. Now I can view that in the My Messages widget right here in the upper right-hand corner of the main screen. And you can see that this clinician has several compliance alerts here. I can double-click the compliance alert, which is going to open up this message. I can press this link here where it says the patient's name, and that opens up the compliance module for this particular patient. Okay. I can also view my full report of compliance items that are coming due by clicking here where it says click to run the full report. And there are several options that are available to me so that I can review my compliance items. I can say I want to just review all of the overdue materials. I can review materials due within X amount of days. So if I wanted to check because I'm going on vacation and I wanted to review everything coming due within the next 14 days, I could alter that date range here. Or I could say I want to look at items that are overdue by at least this many days. So perhaps I was out of the office unexpectedly and I'm trying to prioritize my work. I want to look at everything that's at least 5 days old. Okay. Yes.
Alicia, I'm sorry, but would you mind going back to click on the patient link there and show what that indicates?
Sure. The compliance module here, and we're going to get into this in the next topic a little bit. So the compliance module is showing you all of the due dates for this particular patient. And you can look through these due dates by going from tab to tab. In this case, this patient has compliance treatment plan that's overdue.
Okay.
Okay. We'll talk about that more in the next topic.
Okay.
Okay. So just going back into the report, I'm going to look at all of my overdue materials. And you're going to notice that because this clinician is configured for both chemical dependency and mental health patients, there's actually 2 reports that pop up, one for mental health and one for chemical dependency. So I can look at each of the different modules side by side and look at all of the items that I need to complete. Okay. Any questions on the compliance alerts or the personal compliance reports?
Anybody? Okay.
Okay. Next, we want to look at an individual patient's due dates. So on the ClinicTracker main screen, I can go to Patients and then Patient Dashboard in order to access an individual patient's dashboard. I prefer to use the My Patients widget as a shortcut for accessing my assigned patient's patient dashboard. And the way that I'm going to do that is just by clicking double-clicking the patient's name here on this list. Okay. I'm automatically seeing a compliance alert because this patient has an overdue item. I'm going to say no because I want to continue on to go into the patient dashboard. Then I'm going to come here to the compliance info tab. This is where I can see all of this patient's compliance due dates. Okay. I can also click here to view details, which again opens up the compliance form. The compliance form will show you the due date for each item on the list as it's configured in the options form. Okay. When an item is complete, you'll see a check mark over here. If you have full access to the compliance module, you will be able to manually mark items as having been completed. However, if you have read-only access as granted by your administrator on the staff info form, you may not be able to manually mark something as complete. So if you do have read-only access, you would need to contact your administrator or supervisor in order to have something manually marked as complete. Okay. Again, like we saw in our last topic, you can go from tab to tab to look at the various completion due dates, or excuse me, due dates and completion dates.
Alicia?
Yes.
If the system if I finished a pre-admission form and I signed it, would the system mark it as complete for me?
The system will prompt you asking you if you want to mark that item as complete, provided on the options form. So I'm going back to Help, About, Admin Config, Options, and then on the Compliance CD Both tab, this Autofill Compliance Completion Dates. This setting will cause the system to prompt you, asking, do you want to mark this item as having been complete on the compliance module. Provided you say yes to that prompt, then the item will automatically be marked as having been completed. If you accidentally say no, you'll need to manually mark the item as having been completed or contact your supervisor.
Depending on your privileges.
Yes, depending on your privileges. And those privileges are set on the staff info form. So an administrator could adjust that by coming here to staff info, and then going to the user responsibility tab. And right here you'll see this compliance item here. You can select read or full. Okay.
So if my clinic has it that when I'm done writing something, I can let the system know, then I just go ahead and click on it. But it won't do that automatically. It will just tell me to do it.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Are there any other questions on this particular topic? Okay. The last item that we're going to talk about is administrative reports. So as administrators of your clinic, you may want to look at the compliance materials for all of your clinicians. The way that you can access your compliance reports is by coming here to Reports, Admin. Okay, and right at the top, you're going to see that there are several compliance reports available to you. The compliance report that's going to show you everything that's coming due, just like the clinicians would see, but except it would include all clinicians in your clinic, is right here at the top. And again, you're going to see those same options that we already saw. So we can look at all overdue materials coming due within X amount of days, or materials overdue by at least this amount of days. So for our example, we're going to look at all overdue materials, and we're going to say that we want it sorted by clinician. So that means it's just going to be broken out by the clinician. And we're going to say, okay. So once the report runs, again, we're going to get a chemical dependency report and a mental health report because those items are tracked separately. So you can see here that we have several patients listed, but they're all broken out by the clinician. So over here on the left-hand side, you'll see a list of your clinicians, including Janie Allen, which is our example clinician today. As soon as I double-clicked her name, it brought me to her section of this report, so I can then see everybody that's on her list. Okay, and I can keep moving through each clinician. So for example, if I want to switch down here, I just double click the name on the side. Okay. There's also a late compliance materials report, and that's going to show you everything that was turned in over the due date. So the important thing to remember when looking at these top two reports is the compliance report will show you items that have not yet been completed. The late compliance materials report is going to show you items that were completed after the due date. Okay. So if I just want to expand this date range out a little bit, and press OK, I can look and see everything that was turned in late. So that's going to help you as you're maybe doing reviews for clinicians, so you can see if they're consistently turning in compliance materials past the due dates. Maybe that's something you want to provide some coaching on or something like that. You have this information available to you. Okay. Any questions on the compliance administrative reports? Okay.
Well, I guess it should be said for the administrators out there that this is the part of the system that staff don't tend to like all that much because it increases the level of accountability, and they know we know, and it helps with compliance and but it doesn't always generate the greatest of feelings, I'm quite sure. Anyhow, we're at the point where you guys can ask about what we just discussed or anything else on your mind. So just go right ahead and just ask those questions directly. Anybody want to talk? Going once? Well, why doesn't somebody say something just so we can make sure you're hearing that and we have the system right? There we go. Who's there? Are you guys there?
Esther, it looks like you're raising your hand. Did you have a question?
No. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, no, sorry. I just want you guys to know that I'm here.
Okay. Okay.
I have another staff member, Meg, who's unable to access the viewing, but she is able to hear the audio.
Okay. We're going to post a link to the recording in the next day or so, right to that registration page where you went to register. So she will be able to look at that recording as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Pitts as well, too. She is going to be catching up with us later.
Okay. So I'll just make a note to send you the link to the recording, Esther.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Any other questions from the group before we wrap up today? Okay, so after we close this meeting today, we are going to send out a link to a survey, and we really ask that you provide us your feedback so we can make these webinars as beneficial to the group as possible. So if you have suggestions on the topics you'd like to see in the future, please let us know. If you think that we should structure things differently during the webinars, let us know that information too, because again, we do want to make these as productive as possible for everybody. And with that being said, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you everybody for your time today.